Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 137 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to start producing military science and get rid of that huge nickel overload we have. Enjoy. We've already got it planned out, basically. It might be quite similar to what we've already made. We might have to adjust some things, but for now, let's copy it all and see what we can do with it. So we need 20 assembling machines, and they're here. Now what's changed is that we have the higher speed assembly machine, so we only need 2 for each side. So we can pull all that out of there. And additionally, it's different because we have plates we need to chop up now. But we probably could do direct insertion for these since there's not that many machines. So we can kind of pick that stuff up a little bit. Put that right there. Making copper plates. Let's move this back a bit so we have more space. Probably don't need quite as many inserters here either. But we can put the other one right here. Making iron. And that's pretty good right there. Let's pick it up and put it back in. These things are pretty close to a red belt, so let's just put a red belt in here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. That side's always the easy one. Now let's get a big old copy of green science. Let's just place it over here, then we can get it fixed up. So that's going to be 24 of them, which is correct. So we can just pick that up and line it up right here. Yeah, we had some real odd stuff going on here. Probably limitation of inserters or power poles or something along those lines. Okay, this should be the retrofitted green science setup, where coils of tinned wire and iron come in here. Chops the iron pieces off to put into those. Tinned wire comes around, goes in, gets picked up. Then the nodes get placed on this belt and sent way down here onto this belt right here. Then we have iron and lead coming in here, getting placed right there. The iron gets turned into these wafer stamps right here and spins around. Wafer stamps get combined with that lead, turned into the micro wafers. And then we have copper and tin coming in on this belt. The copper and the micro wafers turn into microcircuits, which come down here, swing around, and they get picked up, as well as an input of basic circuit boards, which also gets placed on this belt, either on the left or the right, whatever makes sense. They get turned in the Atmos instrumentation. Those combine, go along this belt, get turned into green science, and then combine with a red science to have a green-red science belt. So that's that. It's pretty straightforward. But now stuff's gonna get real, because we need to do military science. So it looks like it's the same 2 inputs and then an output. And then there's 20 of them. So can probably get by with this. Switch it over to military. So we'll have 2 inputs. Probably one coming from one side, one coming from the other. Let's do the kinetic test target plating first, where we need 18 assembling machines, 4 inputs, 2 outputs. We'll use some filter inserters here, where the desired output goes to the far belt, then the waste byproduct goes to the near belt to get taken somewhere else. So steel and brass will come down here, then Invar and the other items will come down this one. Still sufficiently slow where yellow inserters can do everything. But we need to make 18 of these. So let's flip it around and line it up to the output here. And get the inserter set up. 8, 12, 16, and 20. And we need another 14 machines making the test plates. And I see that we would need 2 red belts of Invar plates because it's slightly over 30, but I think I'd rather just make this red and then we can upgrade it to blue in the future. Just make the setup cleaner. So let's just copy this over here since certain elements of it are similar. Change this to the test plate. Still has the waste byproduct, so we can leave all that the same. But what we need to change is the output. And that output is going to have to combine with this setup over here. So we'll just have to keep that in mind. Well, let's see what we can do about lining this up. Let's see. These plates can come up and go over here and get split appropriately. And I think that's pretty well attached. So needed 14 of these. So 8, 12, 16. Get rid of these. Let's see, let's make this go down. Because then it can swing over. And we can combine it with this. And then on the other side, it looks like we have some electronics processing. All these numbers are fairly low. I kind of want to do some direct insertion here. It won't be the perfect ratio or anything like that, but it should work. Where that's making the testing modules. Belt comes in. We'll use some stack inserters there. Actually, both of these machines even use the same resources. They both use carbon and circuit boards. And then let's see about direct insertion. We can move that down, put an underground there, and then direct insert right through the middle. And we can do it again with a single machine, which we can put right there and have yellows in here. But one thing we do have to take care of is all of these byproducts, which is a ton of stuff. And it said this machine has 3 inputs and 3 outputs technically. Well, actually, do something similar. We have the machine set up like that. And then in the middle here can be all of the crazy outputs. And it'll need to be a filter inserter to make sure we get the right things in there. And then we're going to have to sort those outputs later. Then this one has an input of carbon and circuit boards. Quite a lot, actually. So we'll put some stack inserters there. Okay, we need to be careful about the output. More filter inserters. Let's set them to be the same. And the output will actually go down. So, this is smaller, easier to place in here. And it goes in there. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything. Of course, we'll find out later if I did. But that's what testing is for. So let's review what happens. Brass and Invar comes in. Quite a bit of it, so it comes down those belts there. Then the output, the byproduct, gets placed on this belt here. Then the weapon testing plates go down right here and get split and put on half of a belt there. And we have 2 halves here doing the same thing. And then with this side, we have those testing plates coming in through here, mixing with steel, brass, and Invar, which are what all these belts are on the sides. And then the output is more byproduct. And then the testing plates, which go down and over and take up half the belt for the military science. Then we have carbon basic circuit boards coming in. Then it makes the weapon circuit boards coming out. And it looks like we still need to do the byproducts. Let's see. I think I'll do an angle inserter here just to make this easier. So there we go. That'll place its byproducts on this belt here. These inserters here will take the item and directly insert it in here, which also needs carbon and basic electronics, which come in through here. Then these machines also require carbon, basic electronics, which they get here, and also the direct insertion they take. Then they have the byproducts, which go up there. And looks like we need to have some filter inserters right here to make sure we get the right thing on there. The weapon testing module. So that goes down, goes in, gets mixed up, and turned into military science, which can be put on the bus. So I think we have everything we need. Great thing about building it in the base is now we know we have all of the necessary resources. So now it's just a question of taking it up there and hooking it in. Probably want to bring a lot of landfill in concrete and whatnot, because we got to find a place to put all this stuff. Well, that's good news. That the heat sources have warmed up to 750°C, which is their maximum, and now this is working properly. Where the latch set, and then it unsets. And yes, this pump does keep pumping, but it's not really doing much. It's basically maintaining temperature and powering these lights. So that's why these things are running very slowly. Functionally speaking, when this latch turns off, the power generation stops. You see the hydrogen is definitely going up, even though that pump is actually pumping a little bit. So it looks like we've reached equilibrium with our hydrogen. I wonder if the same can be said about propane here. Pretty much. 750 degrees. Although it just occurred to me, I messed up the neighbor bonus calculation by splitting these in half. Basically means they all only have a neighbor bonus of 2 as opposed to 3. So they should have been squished in there a bit. So I kind of want to fix that. It's going to, of course, waste all the heat again. But we're not getting the full advantage out of it, and the calculation for this output was based on getting that full neighbor bonus. The whole setup is kind of weird. I really should have put the heat sources in the middle. So I think I'm going to do that. Again, it'd be incredibly wasteful with electricity. And pick up all of these items. That way the heat sources can be in the middle. Let's hope third time's the charm here. So we'll pick all this up, move it over, and hopefully we can fit the other half in there. And it looks like it fits. Fantastic. So there we go. Let's get this connected. And generating heat. Very gradually. That is the problem with these heat source things, is just they take a long time to get fired up. So you have to be able to deal with that. Okay, well we can connect the left and the right sides together here. Since it's connected up there to the latch, we probably should do it down here. Alright, well we'll give that some time to balance itself out. Wasn't great to do that right before stress testing the base, because we needed that electricity. But luckily, hydrogen is ready to go, so at least we have hydrogen. One thing we should probably bring along, all of these old labs here, that the standard lab that we have does have a slot for weapons testing, so we don't have to upgrade it quite yet. But if we want to do any sort of agriculture research, then we probably should handle that. I kind of want to let it just basically go through all that, because I don't know if we want to do the biome planners elsewhere, but it does kind of make sense to bring the ones that we have. And so far, this number of labs has worked just fine for us, so might as well just bring the same amount. And I'll leave all the science and everything hooked up here for now, just to make sure that everything goes okay first. We actually have a lot of these little samples laying around. Enough for quite a few of these. Well, we'll let that take its course. It's going to be a little while, but that'll give us about 200 science to bring along. Pretty good. Okay, let's go up there. That's funny, it looks like I never reconnected this belt after setting up this new power generation. Well, that's easily remedied. Time to figure out where we want to put the bus. Well, luckily these science setups really aren't that big. So how about we start it like down here and a distance away just to make sure there's room for anything. And we want this to be nice and wide. Probably don't need to worry about having quite as many belts as in other locations, because this is just science and we kind of have a known quantity of items. So let's do like 4 groups. Ought to be fine. Gotta fill in all this swamp. And out of concrete. We'll have to make do. Interesting. You can't flip it with assembling machine too? Well, in that case, I'll put it down here so red is first. It's kind of hard to see where the actual line begins here. Let's see, let's put it, how about like right there. The military science needs to go up above. Try to line it up. And put it up here. Right there. Let's get those labs down first. Not sure where to place them, but there's space right here. So why not put them in here? And 2 belts go in. We can copy it a couple of times. Let's add a few labs to the mix so it's all even. Put them right in here. And while we're at it, we can place these belts down. Let's just use this section right here for the science. And I'll have this merge and have it only on one side of the belt. And this is as good a place as any to drop in those biome planners. We do have some random science in our inventory, so might as well chuck that in here. Okay, so we need to get resources delivered. Let's see, we can use this as our input. And we've got 2 of Invar. Okay, those are the resources going in. Probably want to do the train stations for loading the byproducts up. They can be pretty small. Basically go anywhere that they fit. Seems like right here. And we need another one in here. We'll worry about getting the trains hooked up and everything later. I just want these strong boxes here right now to absorb all the resources, because we're going to have 2 more belts essentially of byproducts. Let's use the 2 on the bottom here for this purpose. So now we got to get all this hooked up. Seems pretty good. There's not much to that. And with that, red science should begin. Just make sure it's all balanced and everything. Seems like it's basically making it to the bottom. So So this belt needs to be half iron coils, half tinned copper wire coils. And out of belts. This sure uses a lot. Let's set this to 2,000 belts, because 1,000 just isn't enough anymore. So we need to combine this on one belt. And to do so, we can do something like this. Seems pretty good so far. This stuff just has a long bypass, so it's just going to go the long way around. Probably won't matter, but I like to try to fill up the belts if possible. I think it just looks nicer. So we'll put a near and a far right there. Okay, we need copper and tin. It's pretty neat how this works, since the amount of coils is fairly low, that we can just have one belt coming in and then two machines on each side chopping them up and placing the resources where they need to go. I think it's pretty nifty. It's worked out pretty well. Also makes it easier to find out what belts go where, because you could just see the thing that it makes. So you know copper goes there, and you know that tin goes there. Which might make this one a little tricky because they're right next to each other. But it could work if there's a little space here. Well, this works rather nicely for keeping a belt fully compressed. Direct inserting on the belt can be a little tricky, so doing it from the sides and then combining them together seems to work pretty well. Ah, there was a reason for this to be near side. Or regular, but let's do near side. That's because more resources need to be on that belt. The basic circuit boards. And with that, we should be making green science. Let's see it all power up. Seems pretty good. The resources are making it to the bottom, they just need to populate. Let's set up the output of this first. Specifically, all of this byproduct. I'm actually fine with just mixing them together, both types on the belt, and then we can just use a splitter right here at the end to send them to the appropriate station. Just to make it easier. So we have one output right here. And one right here. And one right here. So they'll just combine and mix up into two belts. Then when they get here, they can be split. So let's do the left side as waste. The right side will be coppery waste. So we need brass and invar in here. And we'll put a balancer before and after to try to keep it from getting clogged up. Working so far. There's two halves of this though. Looking good, filling up. Let's bring the brass in here. And we need the two type of steels. That might be tricky, considering how close they are. Man, that is nuts right there. But I believe everything is connected. Seems like it. It's running. Let's see, this one, the belt doesn't go up high enough. Let's see, these don't need to alternate near and far. There we go, that's more even. Looks like some resources got mixed up in there. I think it's good now. Let's get rid of the nears and fars here. And it's chugging away, creating lots of byproducts. It'll probably take quite some time for this to fill up though. Enough to at least test this to see how it works. Okay, the next resource is circuit boards and carbon. So we have the byproduct. And that needs to be actually a filter inserter. Filtering out the byproducts. And then the final hookup before it starts running should be carbon and electronic boards. So let's see what this looks like. Seems pretty good. Let's see, I don't know if there's a speed problem there, but might as well max it out to see what it does. Definitely seems to help. So with that, we should be producing military science. And we are. Looks pretty good. The military packs are being injected into the labs. So now we have maxed out this particular tier of lab. Let's let this run a bit and catch up. In the meantime, though, we can do something about this. Probably want to grab some bridges to get that connected and bring some trains along. Might as well build the station to handle these, where we have some assembly machines that are going to have to turn it back into the ore. And then we need to place it on this belt here to get it back to the sorting. And I think we determined that the easiest thing would be to put a station like somewhere around here and just move it along on a belt to get it back. Let's see. As far as unloading stations go, can we maybe come in through there? Seems like it, but we can get even closer than that. Let's get some trains in here. They're going to have to be fueled somewhere. Might as well be here. And we can actually keep this belt going. Okay, we need to do the processing, which is pretty straightforward. It's just resources go in and resources go out. We need 7 for the regular product and 1 for coppery. And I guess we could just leave it right here. I don't see any reason why it can go anywhere else. I mean, it's a pretty small setup, so it works out pretty well just to plop it right here. Let's see, the output would come in through here. Let's make this one coppery. Copper byproduct unload. And we'll just call this byproduct unload. And then the output is just a really long belt. We need to essentially get to here. But it looks like most of the space here is already taken. Although there is some openings now. We have bobmodium running through here. But in reality, no bobmodium is flowing. Because we unhooked it from the main factory. Same with rubite here, but for now we can just get rid of bobmodium, at least far enough so we can take up its spot with the byproducts. Looks like we can go right next to that other belt. So we would come in through here, and we can just merge right there and get it back in. And then annoyingly, this kind of shifts over here, but I guess I'll shift with it. Then the output can go down there. Well, let's take this train for a ride. Then we need to sort of copy this rail segment in here. Put it down wherever it makes sense. Now take me back to where I started. Now we can create a simple schedule for this, where it goes to copper byproduct load, full cargo, copper byproduct unload, empty cargo, and go. And I guess we can go back up there and see how it looks. It looks like everything caught up. So it's time to see what this research is like. For now, I kind of want to just do a bunch of military research so we can clear out our nickel. But actually, it looks like we did clear it out. We're not maxed out on anything anymore, although the lesser used ores, aluminum, zinc, and silver, are starting to get kind of high, which is a little worrisome. They might actually kind of clog everything up, and we might have to do some research and fix that. But for now, let's see what we can do about the military science. Kind of lots of random stuff. Like projectile damage, speed. We can do the laser upgrade too, might as well. Speed and damage. And explosives. Let's see how that goes. That's an awful lot of research. So that should keep it busy for quite some time. Spark, spark, spark. Let's see, base is doing pretty good. Funnily enough, look at our levels of production now. 675. At least the maximum. That must be the byproduct burners. So if we go over here... Oh yes. This has reached full temperature, and propane is now burning away. And it can't burn fast enough because we're not using enough electricity. But that'll probably change when all this stuff starts up. And hydrogen has also reached maximum temperature. It's just waiting to operate. So when we see that we have 675 megawatts, that's actually fairly accurate. Although I think we might have even more when the hydrogen is on. But that's good to see that we have a much higher maximum output now. Hopefully the byproducts will hold up and keep powering it. Let's see. It's not going very fast. I guess we don't have enough labs. Because we're only using a tiny portion of what we have. Well, alright then. Let's triple it, because I think even doubling it might not be enough. There we go. 859 megawatts. That might be with everything hooked up. Which is nice to see. We're getting pretty close to having this maxed out, and it looks like we're maxing out the research rate here. So it's looking pretty good. And the byproduct train went by. Dropped resources off here. But I noticed it's only inserting on one side of the belt, which is going to cause some problems. So we need to fix that. But rather than drive down there, I kind of just want to take the train. So far the factory seems to be holding up. LTN is doing its thing. We're consuming lots and lots of Invar. Let's get this fixed with near side. That seems to be working a lot better. Seems like the research is moving fairly quickly now. And we've just kind of cleared out that belt. So now we've maxed it out. Looking pretty balanced. Lots and lots of byproduct. Looks like it's basically made it back here. Still needs to get to both sides of the belt, but it will eventually. And the bus is doing pretty good. Look at that. That nickel, for the first time in forever, is no longer the thing we have the most resources of. It is now aluminum. And that makes sense because we haven't used aluminum for anything yet. So it makes sense that we'd be overloaded, or getting close to getting overloaded on that. But hey, now nickel's working its way down. Well, when it gets sufficiently low, I know where there's a bunch of extra Invar that we can throw into the system. But that's what I like to see. No red lights. Everything's good. Definitely using up tons of iron. And that's the end of this episode. On the next one, we're going to start planning for our module production. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.